Hey, I'm Andreas and I'm the founder of mindbodyconnection.org. We help high performing professionals get out of chronic pain by using clinical hypnotherapy combined with the latest insights from pain research and neuroscience. There's a deeply personal reason why I work in this field, and today I wanted to tell you a bit about my backstory. When I was 10 years old, my mother came home one day and she was frantic. She came into the kitchen. I remember it really vividly. And she just said, "There's something really, really wrong with my body right now." And she was pacing around and she was definitely not okay in that moment. And we didn't know it back then, but that day was the start of almost 2 decades of real severe health challenges for my mom. And it turned out she had what we now call chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME. And this was way back in 2008. And while we still don't know all there is to know about chronic fatigue syndrome, and far from it, but back then we really didn't know. And that was quite a scary thing to go through because it was a totally foreign concept. And it was not like my mom was just a bit tired, you know? It was it was bad. It was really bad. Let me just say that. But what happened was that after these initial health challenges really started, she went on a bit of a journey in personal development, and she started reflecting on the life she had led. She started to gain more awareness, and she was also doing lots of research into health, into nutrition, into psychology, into spirituality, really just trying to piece everything together, like what has happened here. And as she gained awareness over the years, she would tell me about it as I grew up. So from like 10 years old and up until the time I was way over 20, she would tell me about how she had lived her life, uh, where she went wrong, what she did right. At that point, a bit later in her journey, she got really into these ideas surrounding the mind body connection. The idea that thoughts and emotion and life experience can influence your physical health in a very real sense. And I had already become very, very interested in health, because growing up with a very ill mom, it did something to me. So I got interested in health. I got interested in psychology. I started working as a personal trainer. I did courses and education in performance coaching and mindset and all kinds of things. And I got really, really interested in this idea about the mind body connection. She would love to tell me about this and discuss these ideas and explain. But my problem with these ideas was that it came from a more spiritual perspective, a more alternative approach. And while there's nothing wrong with that, and I did find the ideas deeply, deeply interesting, for me, I figured that if there's some real merit to these ideas, that if they are actually that important, then there has to be a scientific mechanism that we can study and that we can make into a process, into a system that anybody can use to improve their health. and their well-being and their happiness. So I started digging. I started digging into this idea about the mind-body connection. And what I discovered really just blew my mind. I discovered that there's this field of research called psychoneuroimmunology. And there's been research done in this field for decades now. And it's all about how thoughts and emotions affect the biochemistry in the body, and through that mechanism, how that can influence your immune system. And there's a growing body of research clearly demonstrating that how you feel and how you think and how you act and behave has real consequences, good and bad, on your immune system and your entire body. And we've known this for years, although it's not always that clearly articulated. We don't really learn about this in school. But when I studied physiology, when I did my personal training education, I learned about the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system has two parts. There's the fight or flight response, or sympathetic activation, or there's the rest and repair response, which is the parasympathetic activation. And we know, and we have known for decades now, that stress will put you into the fight or flight response. And when that becomes chronic or overactive, then that will lower your immune function, it will lower your sleep quality, it will have all of these downstream effects. But that's just the base level. It goes way, way beyond that. So what happened next is that as I had learned about these ideas, I wanted to take it to the next level. I wanted to figure out how can I truly leverage these ideas to make a profound impact in people's lives. So I went on to study clinical hypnotherapy. And what happened there just blew my mind even more. One day, I had a conversation with one of my teachers in the course, and she said, "Andreas, I know you're interested in this, and there's this course that I think you should check out." And the course was about something called neuroplastic pain, or centralized pain. And what I learned was that just like under my nose, there's happened this huge paradigm shift in how we understand chronic pain, and also in how we use hypnotherapy to deal with pain. So now we know that the brain can actually learn to produce pain as a habit, even in the absence of physical injury or disease. So this is a huge, huge deal. So 10 years ago, if you were asking about using hypnosis for pain, the answer you would get is that yes, you can use hypnosis to reduce pain, and relatively effectively at that. But now we know that you can actually retrain your brain to reduce or eliminate a lot of chronic pain. And before we go on, I just want to make it clear that even though the brain is producing pain without physical injury, and even though you can use mental therapeutic strategies to reduce or eliminate it, that doesn't mean that the pain you're experiencing is not real, or that you're exaggerating it, or that you should just think more positively. I know in like the therapeutic conversation for the past couple of decades, we have started to learn that psychology does affect pain. But there has been some unfortunate consequences of that. And one has been this CBT approach, and where although CBT can be profoundly impactful, a lot of people have experienced being sent to a psychologist with their chronic pain, being like, why am I going to a psychologist or psychotherapist for this? But they figure, all right, might as well try it, you know? But then the therapy they're receiving is pretty much suggesting to them, like, hey, you need to think more positively, or you need to just stop worrying about your pain. And a lot of people have experienced being just straight up gaslighted. And a lot of people with pain, real pain, have experienced not being believed, not being understood, being respected or acknowledged for what they're going through. So naturally, there's a lot of resistance when it comes to using mental strategies to get out of pain, because all of this baggage is present. But this is not the way in the new paradigm. The new paradigm of neuroplastic pain. Neuroplastic pain is pain that it's generated by the brain as a habit. And there's multiple reasons how that can happen. Just one of them can be that you start off with an injury, but then after the injury has healed, the brain, it retains that habit of producing pain. Because even though you get a real injury, say you get a cut in your finger, even though that pain is originating in the nerves of the finger, it's actually the brain receiving those signals from the finger into the spine up to the brain, and then the brain interprets those signals, and then it decides to produce pain. So all pain is generated in the brain. So that means it has the power to generate a very, very real experience of pain, even though there's no physical cause for it. And studies coming out these days suggest that a lot of people with chronic pain have this exact kind of pain that is generated by the brain, that can be reduced or even eliminated using different mental strategies. This has already been a long video, and at some point I might tell you the rest of my story. But if you have chronic pain and you think it might be neuroplastic or you're not sure, then you can take an assessment in the description below, and it will tell you if it's likely that you have neuroplastic pain that can be treated with mind-body therapy. That's everything from me today. Please send me your questions in the comments below, and please enjoy the rest of your day, and see you in the next video.